Hello everybody, Tahoe Yak Fisher here. We are looking at my Ride 115, which if you guys are following my channel, you know is my electric fishing kayak, rigged up with a Minn Kota 30-pound thrust trolling motor. Now, one thing I haven't discussed since I put all of this stuff together is registration. In California, if you have a motor on your water vessel of any kind, you have to register it. So I have in fact gone through the registration process. We're going to talk a little bit about that and a little bit about battery longevity. I've done some amp hour calculations and testing, and I just want to share it with everybody. So registration was relatively painless. You will need this piece of paper. Let's take a look here. Application for registration number, certificate of ownership, and certificate of number for undocumented vessel. So in addition to this piece of paper filled out, obviously this is just a blank one, and it is two-sided, so make sure if you print it, you get both pieces or both sides, what have you. I also had to have the hull identification number information that came with the kayak. I got a piece of paper. Usually when you buy the kayak, it will have a hull identification number. Mine has it stamped into the boat right here, but I also had it from the manufacturer. So I had to turn in this piece of paper. I had to turn in the hull identification number piece of paper. In return, I got an actual pink slip, standard California pink slip. So this is for my vessel. I also got a registration that has to be kept with the boat, and it's actually with my fishing license. But then you also have to display all of this stuff. There is the California date, but then there's also a muscle fee that you have to pay. That's this final one right here. Got to use 3-inch letters and all that stuff. They really don't stick to the boat very well. You can see I'm kind of chewing them up pretty quick, and I'll just have to be replacing them as I go. So if you're going to put a motor on your boat, keep in mind that you have to register it. Now, one additional piece of information that is going to help you guys out. The DMV did not want to understand that I took a bought and paid for kayak and put a motor on it. So because I could not prove that I had already paid sales tax when I bought the kayak, they made me pay sales tax again. So if you do not want to pay sales tax a second time, take your receipt for the kayak with you so that you can prove that you paid sales tax. All right, you guys, now, second, let's talk a little bit about batteries. This is the battery that I am using. Now, if you watched the video where I showed how I put this kayak together, I had a very similar battery, but it wasn't identical. It was black. It had a little bit different attachments up here, which was the reason I chose that battery, because the attachments were flush and they looked better. But what the guy didn't understand at Batteries Plus was that was a storage battery, not a deep cycle battery. So if you want to be able to cycle the battery the way that you need to for a motor, make sure you get the deep cycle. Once I figured it out, which was before I even used it, I took it back and I returned those two batteries and got these two batteries. So my kayak runs on these two of these batteries. So theoretically, that's a 35 amp hour wired in parallel. I have 70 amp hours. Now, I also have a switch that is a PWM, pulse width modulator, that only draws the amount of power needed to run a given speed. So I did an amp draw test at full speed, and the boat, the battery, the motor never pulled more than 19 amp at max speed. So if you do the math, 70 divided by 19, that's 3.7 hours. Now I estimate that trolling speed is about 40% power, which is 7.6 amps which is theoretically as long as 9.2 hours at trolling speed, about 1.6 miles an hour. Now, I have only trolled with this thing about 7 hours on Lake Tahoe so far, and that was varying between full speed and between trolling speed, and I haven't had any troubles with the batteries. As a matter of fact, I don't think I've ever really gotten close to killing the batteries. Every time I get home and get them back on the charger, my basic charger seems to think they're still at about 60% power, but theoretically you can't drain them more than half of their capacity, so on and so forth. I think that if you want to talk about an all-day event, this is going to go, this is what I've come up with. Somewhere between 4 and 9 hours, depending on how much you're cranking it up to full speed and how much you're just chilling at trolling speed. All right? So those are the subjects I wanted to cover today. I wanted to talk about what it's going to take to register your kayak. Make sure you do it, because if you're out there fishing with a motor and you don't have those numbers, especially in California, man, they will take you to the hoop. And just talk about what batteries I'm using and what kind of life I'm getting out of them. So you guys post up if you have any questions. I am working on getting out on the water. It is January 4th, and you can see there's not much snow in the sunny spots, but it's definitely, we got some snow and some cold weather to contend with. It's supposed to snow like 1 to 2 feet tonight. But we're going to get this thing back out on the water, and we're going to catch some fish very soon. So hopefully this information helps somebody. Guys, Happy New Year. Thanks very much for watching. Tight lines. Yak Fisher out.